Hello everybody, if you found your way to the video, we're going to talk about the history of the PlayStation a little bit, because I think something going wrong right now, but hey, I could be wrong, but let's go back and look at how Sony looked from before. So in this video, we're going to talk about, the series of PlayStation. It's going to be pretty quick, not too long, and we're going to talk about, like, do we think Sony doing good, or like, is it good for us? Like, we got to buy these jokers and play these games. Do we like it? Is it decent? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So before we get to PlayStation 5 right here, let's go back to Sony's early days of the PlayStation 1. Okay, so here we go, the PlayStation 1. So this is how they got they started. I think they was supposed to do some type of collab with like Nintendo or something, but that didn't work out. So they went ahead and made their own console, and they had like disc, which was like, a big thing. So they had disc and everything, and they had their mascots. We're just gonna talk about it on surface level. They got their mascots like Crash Bandicoot, y'all know Spyro. They was out here carrying this console, man. And they don't ever want to do anything nice for those games. And those JRPG stuff like Final Fantasy VII, Breath of Fire. Y'all know them. Those Suikoden. All of those games made the PlayStation good, and it was nice and affordable too. You could get the controller, you had the disc, and you was able to do your thing. You only had two game controllers at this time. I think Nintendo started innovating on that first, but this wasn't too bad. This wasn't too bad. You played the controllers, and these controllers were cheap back then. They wasn't too expensive. You only need to get one more. You had to get a memory card though. That's how we got back in the day, was those memory cards. But anyway, let's get on to the PlayStation 2. That's where, that's where we had a hit on our hands. Yeah, the PlayStation 2. All right, so the Sony PlayStation 2, great console. I think you could play DVDs on here for the first time, so you was cool on this one. And I think they had a multi-tap too, where you could put in 2 extra controllers, so now you could run with 4, but with 4. But anyway, so now you start getting bigger, grander games. You start getting games with voice acting now. You got Final Fantasy X coming out. You got Kingdom Hearts getting started on the PlayStation 2. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts was great. You got the Grand Theft Auto series getting they bearing. They started way back with Grand Theft Auto 1. But Grand Theft Auto 1 was unrecognizable to the series right about now. But when they got Grand Theft Auto 3 out there, oh yeah, they was doing some stuff. But yeah, they tons and tons of games. Like all the JRPGs found the home here. The sports games, like you started getting NBA Lives, Fight Nights. What's happening to Fight Night? But you got the sport games getting they start. The fighting games are starting to do their thing on here too. They was doing their thing before, but they starting to become more legit now. So the PlayStation 2 was good, and it was affordable. You got the controller, you buy the system, buy a couple of games. They had like deals and stuff, and you got a controller for $10. Them $10 controllers cannot be denied. And the memory cards, we still running on the memory cards, but it ain't too bad in this era. So that's how we did it in PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 was great, and that's why this console was doing so well. Fans love it. There was a game for you. Any type of game you like was probably on the PlayStation 2. It had tons and tons of games. It was great. Great time to be a gamer right here. If you had the games anyway. If you didn't have them, then terrible time to be a gamer. But yeah, PlayStation 2 was solid. It was making innovations on the games and everything. They tried to continue those series like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, but I guess the developers didn't want to make them no more, so we got some different developers, and they made some bootlegs, and then once them bootlegs killed the series, those series was gone. But then we got the new mascots. We had stuff like God of War, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter. That's when that was starting to like make its rise, and Kingdom Hearts, which I'm happy that we got. So anyway, let's make our way to the PlayStation 3. That's when things started to take a dip real quick. So let's go to the PlayStation 3. All right, the PlayStation 3. Oh man, this is where dreams went to the wayside. So in the PlayStation 3, that sucker dropped out expensive. I remember, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because I didn't buy it when it launched. This sucker was expensive. I remember there was some crazy stuff going on. I remember PlayStation 2 dropping, and it's like 250 or something like that. Either 250, 300, something like that. When this dropped, this thing was like $600. I was like, wait a minute. I know our wages wasn't that good back then, because I don't know about y'all, but the wages wasn't that good back then. So I don't know who was buying the PlayStation 3, because Sony done priced us out from the get-go, right from the jump. And as soon as they did that, Xbox was ready to sneak in. So this was what we call the generation of gray. The generation of gray, brown, muted colors. Oh man, this generation kept giving us Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. That's when Call of Duty became a meme for being gray. And then every time they made a new game, it just looked like Call of Duty. So Call of Duty was the pioneer, and then everything looked like Call of Duty. What's going on here? Everything, the colors were just bad. JRPGs couldn't show up for some reason. I was like, hey, where the JRPGs at? We had them in the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. Where they at? I'm missing the Kingdom Hearts here. I'm waiting on Kingdom Hearts 3, and it never came. So I don't know what was going on here. This is when things started getting weird. And then games were taking like forever to like download and install. We had to deal with them installing and downloading for the first time. And we didn't know what was going on with that. We didn't know how to process that. The game, I can't play the game. You'll get the game from the store, and you used to popping that joker in and playing the game, and then now you got the game, and now you can't even play. You gotta wait the next day or so. Like, oh man, this Christmas gonna suck because I can't even play the game. So anyway, but you had to get no memory card this time. You had a hard drive. They starting to become more like computers right here. They got online and everything, and then the gamer chat, man. This is the funniest thing ever. So if you go online and you talking to other people that's playing online, you got the video chat. It was the wild west out there. It was people saying anything. They was torturing people. They was saying nonsense. They was just bad mouthing people. It was ridiculous. It was funny. It was some of the funniest. I remember playing games and people just roasting me in the game, man. They telling me how they gonna jump me while I'm playing like Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z or Call of Duty or something, and they just gonna say they gonna get me. And I hear them saying they gonna get me. They plotting my downfall, and they telling me too. I can hear it on the mic. So I'm like, man, what's going on here? But it was the wild west with that video recording audio chat and everything, the party stuff. That was crazy. And with this, you could play those controllers. You could have up to 4, but they never really had no good 4-player games locally. So I don't really know why you would, but you could. This controller kind of sucked though. This controller sucked in a lot of different ways. This controller was like $50. I think this controller launched at $50, which was wild because these controllers have been $10 for the longest. This joker came out as $50, and this controller was flimsy. It broke all the time. It was just bad. And this is what I call the fat PlayStation 5. I mean PlayStation 3. This is the original. This is the big bulky one. This is the one that claimed to have backwards compatibility, and it did. It let you play PlayStation 2 games and PlayStation 1. So far, Sony at least had backwards compatibility. Thank goodness. But only with the big joker, because if you got the smaller, the slim, it had no backwards compatibility. You couldn't play them old games. They were trying to phase them out. So this was also when Sony was doing their PSP and everything. And then we're not going to have a slide for the PSP, but we can talk about it in a little bit. The PSP came out a little bit in between, like, PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3. And the PSP was like a handheld version of this, but not as good. And it had one analog stick. And I think that one analog stick was killing it for a lot of people. It was not great. But this the PlayStation 3, the generation of grays and browns, and then the Xbox coming in trying to compete with it with the red ring of death. It was the funniest thing ever. And we eventually got some JRPGs and some good stuff. But it seemed like as soon as we started getting some stuff going on this console was on its way out. And we making our way for the console you may still have right now. PlayStation 4. Okay, we on the PlayStation 4. So the PlayStation 4 on design. The design looked like a box. They just gave us a box. They gave us wafers. Like they just gave us a box. So they didn't care about the design no more. And the controller's a little bit better. They put a touch screen up in here. I don't know what was going on here. I guess they saw Nintendo doing their thing, and they say, hey, let's put a touch interface on this one. So, and that touch interface was never integrated correctly to this day. It's still not doing what I think they were supposed to be trying to do with this thing, which I don't even really know what it's for, because it's like they was trying to make games for it, but then you saw them sort of just give up halfway throughout, and then we've been stuck with this touch interface since the PlayStation 5, and it's never been properly utilized. It's just there. In some cases, it's annoying to people to have it on the controller. So I don't know where we were going with that. And this is when they also try to do the PlayStation Move. Oh man, another failure. The PlayStation Move was copying off of the Wii, and the PlayStation Move was just horrible. So they trying all the Nintendo gimmicks, and they failing miserably. They even did PlayStation VR. And the funny thing about PlayStation VR here is PlayStation VR could have worked. It just never got supported that well, which is kind of funny. Games you would have wanted on the PlayStation VR, you never got. And the games you did get was short. They was over before you know it. So they was funny with that one. So I don't know where we were going with the PlayStation 4's gimmicks, but the gimmicks made no sense. And while we were focusing on these gimmicks, at the beginning of the PlayStation 4, you didn't have no games. You was putting your hands up in the air like, when we gonna get some games? You know what we were getting on the PlayStation 4? We lost backwards compatibility. No PlayStation 3 games, no PlayStation 2 games, no PlayStation 1 games, no more. They gone. The architecture is different. They told us the architecture was different. So I don't know what y'all mean by the architecture was different. And cause if y'all like engineer, y'all designing and planning things, right? If the architecture is different and they say that's the reason why we can't make it backwards compatible, that must mean we designed this with different architecture to make it not backwards compatible. So I'm looking at it like, hey, wait a minute. So why didn't y'all just design it to be backwards compatible? So whatever, that's a story for another day. Maybe someone at Sony can tell me, but I just thought y'all wanted us to buy those games again. Because not only did we not get games when this console launched, we was getting remasters. This is when the remasters started happening. They started happening in the PlayStation 3 in the later half, but this is when they were flooded. Because I remember this system had more remasters and third-party games than anything on there. We lost all those series. We wasn't getting no Crash Bandicoot coming back, no Sly Cooper coming back. They was gone. They was dead in the water. We ain't getting no Ratchet and Clank, none of those. God of War. Well, we got one, but did we get a God of? Oh yeah, we got it at the very end with a reboot. But yeah, we were just getting nothing out here, and people was like, man, this PS4 ain't got no games on it. Just like what's happening with the PlayStation 5 right now. Because I remember we had Infamous Second Son, and I know we had that, and it was barren after that. Like we just had Infamous Second Son and nothing else. It was terrible. And then we got the legendary game Bloodborne. Bloodborne saved this console. I don't care what nobody say. Bloodborne saved it. Because I remember when Bloodborne came out, people cared about their PlayStation 4. And then we started getting other games now. The RPG started coming back. Everything just started going and flowing after that. We started getting, some of the other series that Sony's known for. I think Horizon started sneaking up in there at some point. But it was crazy. We were getting Red Dead Redemption 2, which is like a multiplayer for Xbox, had that too. But we started getting good games, and the color spectrum was back. We didn't have gray and brown no more. We starting to get colors in our games again. We're getting colors back. Like I didn't know what was going on. Again, you can play 4 controllers and everything, but yeah, this console launch was rough. And I remember the games took forever to download on this one too. So they told us it was going to be faster, but then they just made the games require more storage space, and then they just took just as long as before. But when they did an update, like later on to the later half of this generation, the update kind of made games download faster. Because at first, they did not download fast. They did not. I'm waiting. I remember getting Final Fantasy 15 day 1, and I couldn't play it till like day 3. Like it was terrible. I was like, oh man, I wish I could play Final Fantasy 15, but I can't. Never. And then the game had to get patched too. The game was getting patched. I was like, oh man. But yeah, this is the PlayStation 4, man. They was out here. I don't think the PlayStation 4 knew what they wanted to do, and then they found their sweet spot when they started making those good games. They made good games, and then they started being like, all right, we got our groove now. And as soon as they got to their groove, they started dropping like good games. Final Fantasy VII Remake and everything. And then we was on our way to the PlayStation 5 suddenly. We were like, oh man, that PlayStation 5 looked like Seto Kaiba. Let's get to the PlayStation 5. Let's continue our discussion there. This is where things get really funny. All right, we on the Seto Kaiba console. I mean the PlayStation 5. Now, when we first saw this design was terrible. So I don't know who liked this design, but this design was not good. And I was roasting this design. Everybody was roasting this design. We was making memes. Like if y'all play Vanguard, this looked like Monarch Sanctuary Alfred. And we were like, man, this Monarch Sanctuary Alfred, what he doing in the game console? But anyway, the PlayStation 5 was just funny, man. It's big too. It's big and annoying. It's just, man, it's wild. But yeah, so they gave us a good controller out here. This is probably the best controller we had so far, because I done played and held all these controllers, and I would fix these controllers when they break. This one, sturdy. It's $70 though. That sucker better be sturdy because this thing is expensive. But yeah, the PlayStation 5 is kind of... Oh, this is something I was supposed to speak on when we were on the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 had one big hiccup. Subscriptions. So now we have to pay to play online. And this carried on here, and it got worse here. So Sony was doing this weird thing where PlayStation Plus, they call it. I call it PlayStation We Know Want Some Money and Some Donations. Because with PlayStation Plus, you're allowed to play your games online. You're allowed to play your games online, and you get 3 monthly bogus games every month. Three bogus games you don't want every month. Sometimes you'll get one that you want in there. But then the other 2, you surely won't want. So you're going to get 3 bogus games a month. And before, this used to be somewhat kind of fair because Sony had different consoles going where you would get different games. Like if you had a PlayStation 3, a PS Vita, and a PS4, you was getting games on all of them and they were different. So that was good. But now you getting 3 bogus ones for sure. And it's not great. It's kind of bad sometimes. You're getting the 3 bogus games. But yeah, but anyway, this console drops. And I know they started dropping with Spider-Man because I think the people that made Spyro, they went on to make Ratchet and Clank. And they don't care about Ratchet and Clank no more. Then they went on to Infamous. Wait a minute. Is this the right studio? They didn't go on to Infamous. They went on to something. I don't know what they went on to. But anyway, they went on to something. And now they back with Spider-Man. And then as soon as this console dropped, I remember it now. I got it. It was a fight to get this console. But I got this console, and as soon as it dropped, they said, we got Miles Morales for you, which is also on the PS4. And we got Demon Souls, which was on the PS3. And that Demon Souls looked amazing, man. I don't care what nobody said. That Demon Souls is still the only true PlayStation 5 game to this day. That Demon Souls was next gen. Everything else was close, but that Demon Souls was there. That Demon Souls was hot, man. It ain't got no better than that Demon Souls still. But anyway, that Demon Souls was a good game right there. But yeah, so I'm like, this system gonna ride on Demon Souls. I said it back then. And I'm like, wow, it's gonna ride on Demon Souls. And then we just started getting some funny stuff coming out here on this PlayStation 5. We was getting games like Returnal, which I don't care about. I don't know who cared about. We had that All-Star Derby game that was never good. And that was bad. What was that microtransaction game? Godfall. It was just a whole bunch of nonsense on this console. And I'm like, wait a minute. We'll be getting these games. And then we get these indie games after indie games. And indie games are cool. It's just... It just never worked. It just never worked. It's like we're just getting a whole bunch of indie games. Sony is promising all this stuff, but the only studio that's coming through is Insomniac. They out here like, all right, we about to get y'all Ratchet and Clank, and we got Spider-Man 2 in the works, guys. And we working on Wolverine. And I'm like, what the rest of y'all doing? Y'all just not doing nothing. Y'all waiting on the PlayStation 6. Because we're like, oh, wait, we got the Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, Forbidden whatever. Forbidden something, and then we giving you The Last of Us Part 1 again, and then we gonna give you not God of War. We gonna give you The Last of Us Part 1 again, and we gonna give you Grand Theft Auto 5 again, because we didn't give this game to you on PlayStation 3. We're gonna give it to you again on PlayStation 4, and we're gonna give it to you again on PlayStation 5, and it's gonna look the same, but it's gonna be brighter, but it's gonna look the same. And this subscription went wild too, because I think the subscription went from like its humble beginnings of like $50 a year to $60 a year to $70 a year to $80 a year. And then we making these other tiers where we got the super tier, which is like Game Pass, except that joker $150 something a year. And it's just wild out here. And you need it to play online, so I don't know what's going on. But you can get the cheap one, the base $80 one, which is like, what is it, $10 a month, roughly, which isn't too bad, but man. So now we're at the thing where we're noticing that Sony's saying our games are not selling. Like, people are not buying, Final Fantasy at 30, 40 million copies like they buying Mario Party or something. Like, they selling Mario Party at a higher rate than like Sony's triple A's, and Sony's like, hey, wait, why triple A's ain't selling like that? They love these series. People keep requesting them. Well, let me tell you what's going on here, Sony. I'm gonna give you the real reason. we can't afford to buy. so we can't afford to buy them. But it's deeper than that. So the PlayStation 5 is riddled with a whole bunch of issues. Some are Sony's fault, some is not Sony's fault. So this is funny. So it all goes back to the tech shortage in 2020. We won't talk about that fateful event, but there was a tech shortage. So they wasn't able to make as many PS5s as they wanted. The same thing happened with Xbox too. So we sold a certain amount of PlayStations, and what happened was scalpers got a hold to those PlayStations. They started scalping. They was collecting PlayStation 5s. And what that means is there will be less consumers that play video games that have PlayStation 5s. And if there are less people in the pool that play video games that have PlayStation 5s, and there's not that many PlayStation 5s, how can we sell more copies than the system that we have? Sony, I don't know how we were going to sell more copies than the amount of copies that are actually being used by people. But let me tell you about that math. That math does not add up. So we got scalpers on the loose. And now we do have customers. We got people that finally got the PlayStation 5s and everything. We got the PlayStation 5s. We done had them for about 2, 3, 4 years by now. And now what are we going to do now? We going to buy a game? Well, we got to maintain that subscription. That subscription pretty expensive and hefty. We might have to get a second controller because the second controller, we just need another controller so we can charge one and play the other one. Because now we got to charge them. So, okay, that's $70. Oh, man, that's a lot. How much the PlayStation 5? PlayStation 5 was $500 when this dropped. That's not as bad as PlayStation 3, but that's a lot too. So we got to deal with that. And now the games cost $70. So if the games cost $70, then wait a minute. Are we gonna make rent and eat, or are we gonna buy a game? Wait a minute, we can't. The game $70. That's before tax, guys. Before tax, and that's in the region of the United States. They wilding out with them prices out overseas and everything. It's crazy. But so we got to maintain this. We got to get the controllers, and we got to buy this thing at $70. That is just. It's gonna be a good game. Like Sony gonna give you a good game. They ain't gonna give you no bad game. But how it's gonna be selling? When everybody got a Nintendo Switch, so they all got a Switch because they were able to get a Switch, and the games are $60. The games are $60. They was all able to get a Switch, and they trust those series because Sony has been abandoning their series. They've been switching on to like Horizon Zero Dawn, and the people that like those games like movies, so they don't like to buy games. They like to watch a movie. So most of the people that was watching those Sony Studio exclusive games were watching them. They were watching streamers and other people play them on YouTube. They're not gamers. So, but the people that were gamers were the ones that were playing things like Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper and Smash Brothers Nintendo, sorry. The old Sony games that people kind of liked and everything. And there's some people playing some of these new ones. They playing them, but they're not playing them at a high rate that you think they're playing them. They watching them. They watching them games. They watching their cousin beat it. They watching their favorite streamer beat it. And then they deciding to play, I don't know, Fortnite or something else, which that's a whole nother issue. These live service games, they've killed the PlayStation 4 and Xbox generation. I saw it. And then they tried to carry this on PlayStation 5. Every time those live service games come out, they cannot do as well as Fortnite. And they fail. They fail. And if they didn't fail yet, they will fail eventually. Because it seems like Fortnite is probably the only one that can actually hold the test of time. They'll see success for a minute and then they go and they fail. And when they fail, we have the studios working on that instead of working on games that people actually want. And so now you lose customer loyalty and favor, because now we saw you go off on your own and make this live service game that just charges a whole bunch, and then you gave up on the live service game, and we get nothing when you usually give up on these live service games. That's the funny part. So people are funneling money into live service stuff that goes away and they get nothing, and then you are selling them $70 games that are basically more or less the same, and it's the games that they don't want but the movie watchers want. And then you got them charged for high online rates, which is also kind of crazy. And the games don't come out. So, and then when they come out, they're not marketed right. So people, when they finally drop, you don't know they coming. you see a PlayStation Sony event thing, and they showing you one game that's coming. Like, what is it, Ghost of Yotai or something? But that's all that was in there. So then you suddenly Ghost of Yotai dropped, and then when it dropped, you ain't got the $70, and then you just say nothing else coming for Sony. I guess that's about it. So it is a lot of things that's going on wrong with the PlayStation 5, and we halfway through the generation. And then the PlayStation 5 Pro. This is the picture we got, the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's the funniest part. So now Sony's like, all right. So we pricing them out. They can't afford to buy our stuff, and they're not buying our stuff, and so our stuff ain't selling well. You know what we're going to do? Raise the prices. You can't make this up. So then they dropped a $700 Joker. A $700 console right there. $700 Joker. Crazy. And that Joker don't got no disc drive. You got to buy that for $80 plus. It don't even got no stand. Got to buy that stand for $30, man. We going backwards now. We making it real funny now. So Sony is just, I think Sony just cutting their losses. I don't know if they just giving up out here. They giving up. They giving up. They just gonna sell some games and charge and then just pack up and give it over to Steam. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I'm a PlayStation fan. I still got the consoles, but I know it's falling off. I'm out here trying to play a game, and then it's a whole bunch of stuff that's just going wrong. But it's funny though. But it's a hobby. We care about it. Don't get rid of these disk drives. Make things backwards compatible so we don't have to make these weird services, because it'd be funny if the PlayStation 6 come out and the architecture is different and we lost every game that we bought digitally already. So don't do that. So one good thing I will say about the PlayStation 5 is it was backwards compatible with the PlayStation 4. Keep that up. Don't go ahead and change the architecture and then start slapping a whole bunch of remasters on us because y'all ain't got the games yet. Another tip, before you launch a console, have some games ready for it. Don't launch them with no games ready for it. That's a bad idea. It happens every single time. So that's about it. This video went a little bit longer than I thought it would. There's just some thoughts about, the PlayStation and everything, and I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know what was your favorite console. Is this a cool generation for you? Do you think this isn't happening? Consider subscribing to the channel. We do lots of gaming videos on here. I play gaming series. I discuss. I play the games. I try to do some fun videos. Sometimes I do a stream where I'm playing the music instruments of the videos. But anyway, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Consider subscribing and liking the video. Leave a comment down below if you have something good to say. Even if you ain't, you just want to say hello, do it. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one, and hopefully things get better with these games and everything. I love games, so I hope the market doesn't just what. All right, anyway, see you.